All right, this is our first story. This one's more of a fun one to start with. It is all about number usage and passwords. So this one's from the Fans Internet Storm Center, and it may sound a little simple, but it's just going through about 275,000 records over 2 years of password data that they were able to access. You'll see here. Turn the music down a little bit. It is a bop, but my brain cannot handle it. Okay. So they pulled about 275,000 unique passwords, and their whole goal was to figure out what were the most frequent numbers used. Though it may come as a shock to you that the most frequent numbers used were 1, 2, 3. In this graph, this first one I'm showing you is sequential numbers or contiguous numbers used in passwords submitted to a honeypot. So you'll see 1, 2, 3 is just peaking, almost 40,000 of the 275. That is a very, very high percentage. 1, of course, is in there. And then 1 through 6 I thought was interesting. It was so much higher up than 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you've got any of this in your password, maybe reconsider. This is very frequently used from what they show here. And then another one I thought was interesting was digits. This is just a singular digit, how frequently it's used. So as you might expect, it goes kind of down the row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way down to 9. 7 actually ended up being the least popular, which was interesting. And along with running them like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, people are also putting years in their password. When you go to update an account, if it's 2022, you're putting 2022 in there. And it looks like a trend over the years where you put in the current year whenever you go to update your password. So another red flag, maybe something to consider not doing in the future. And another one, this was a top 4 digits used. You can see there's a lot of 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a lot of the year after that. And yeah, just since 2024 has recently started, there weren't many records of that, but it is starting to peak up. So the next story we have, on a side note, all these links I'll show down in the description. So if there's anything you want to read more about or you're interested in, check out the description in the YouTube VOD or video, and you can check it out there. So this next one truthfully freaks me out a little bit. This is OpenVoice. It's versatile instant voice cloning. So you may be wondering, what the hell does that mean? It is basically taking references of people's voice audio and generating full sentences from it. It's usually shorter clips from what I read so far, and I'm going to actually pause the music for a second while I play some of these audio samples. So here is the reference.
All right, game face on. Oh, come on, bailing out. Boom shakalaka, she's on fire.
All right.
With
Here's
every
it.
brushstroke, the artist poured their soul onto the canvas, creating a masterpiece that captured the essence of emotion, transcending mere colors and shapes to evoke profound introspection.
So with just that reference audio, they're able to make these two generated pieces of someone talking or sounding like they're talking, and it is a bit absurd how good it sounds comparatively.
The hushed whispers of a library echoed with the rustle of turning pages, as readers immersed themselves in worlds.
All right, that's enough of that one. Another piece of this that was super interesting is the flexible voice style control. So basically adding emotion to the voices that you hear.
There's the scientific method which I've.
So of course, that's Elon Musk. Here's a happy version of him.
I'm beaming with happiness just thinking about all the good things on the horizon.
So okay, sounds a little bit more scuffed.
Pain of losing someone dear is an ache that lingers in the heart.
That sounded a lot like Elon to me. So it is wild how much this technology is going to progress. And yeah, things like holding or getting security authentication over the phone, talking with users, may be a little less reliable down the road if it's that easy to generate a voice, make it sound just like a person, happy, sad, give it certain prompts. And another one as wild as the language.
The word intelligence.
So Elon again.
早点休息吧. Rest early. 해약이었을 그다사이. Repose toi Descansa temprano. Adducairană. 일찍 쉬어.
Okay, and they put here the reference voice and the generated voice can be in any languages outside the massive speaker multilingual data set. So just from this English reference can be translated into all these different languages. So that's super interesting for like YouTubers. They're trying to translate their voice or their scripts into different languages. Maybe a pretty useful tool for them going forward. This one, like I said, is a bit mind-blowing and a little scary. If you're interested in learning more about it, I'll also link up their white paper. So these 4 individuals wrote up a little white paper early January outlining the tool, the purpose of it, what challenges they're trying to tackle. Pretty interesting, worth a read. The next one we'll jump into is about Mac OS's X Protection. And so for those of you who don't know, it's basically Mac's built-in antivirus tool. When any malware is found, XProtect is updated to basically detect and block that malware going forward. And they've started to notice, there's been 3 instances in particular of information stealers that have been detected and blocked, and then pretty soon after have come back around and have been able to go undetected again. So it's really interesting how frequent this is starting to happen. So they put 3 of them in here. Key Steal was the first one, Atomic Stealer, and Cherry Pie. So you'll see these first documented in 2021, and it's evolved a lot since then. And you'll see in here, Apple's last updated its signature for Key Steal in February 2023. But it has changed enough that it's already back and popping up. And then another one, Atomic Stealer, documented by Sentinel-1 in May 2023, was scripted out of XProtect. And then it's already, see, Apple's last updated XProtect signatures and detection rules this month. Sentinel-1 reports already observing C++ variants that can evade detection. So it's already popping back up. Just crazy how quickly these are coming back after they've been gotten rid of. Another one was Cherry Pie, not a Raspberry Pi, but Cherry Pie that was found in September, blocked out in December by XProtect. And yeah, it sounds like these are not faring very well either. So XProtect, while good to have, is probably not enough to keep your OS safe. They recommend in this article having more heuristic-based analysis. Basically what that means is identifying viruses and malware that haven't been identified before, so that the antivirus hasn't seen before. So something that I found super interesting that I came across is a comparison between a bunch of different antivirus options if it's something that you would like to look into and see these different products. There's a consumer version. This is the business one. I was looking at it for more work purposes, but if you are a consumer looking for antivirus software, they have different basically studies or tests that they run here. And I'll show a quick result of this. So they ran all these different test cases against these different antivirus, and I believe all of them have the heuristic-based analysis, so they're a little bit more dynamic and pick up stuff that the XProtect may not be able to. But you'll see the checklist, Bitdefender and Avast blocked everything. They didn't get compromised at all, no, or very few false alarms, while something like VMware had a lot less accuracy in the blocking, and while WatchGuard had a bunch of false alarms. So interesting to see how these different antivirus softwares stack up, and I'll definitely be coming back to AV comparatives to see the different ways that this works. And if you're running on Mac, it's likely worth checking out a different study that's against the Mac platform instead of the Microsoft Windows to see which antivirus might be best for what you're doing. Next story we've got on the docket is about the Androx Ghost malware botnet. It's a botnet that's seemingly been around for a while, and it sounds like they are starting to try to steal cloud credentials like AWS and Microsoft. So for those that don't know, botnets basically are scanning websites and servers, or in this case, they're scanning websites and servers for versions of PHP Unit Test Framework, PHP Web Framework, and Apache Web Server with remote code execution vulnerabilities. So that's just found down here in the article. It's these three vulnerabilities that they're looking for. And at a higher level, I guess a little bit, a botnet is basically just a group of internet connected devices that are used for malicious activities. So commonly for DDoS attacks or any mining type of activity, it's all stuff that botnets are pretty well known for at this point and that they do. And for PHP, I'm not super familiar with PHP, but it is just a programming language. And then PHP unit over here, that's the framework for testing bits of PHP code. So these are the three that they're targeting. And when they're getting access to these credentials, there's just a couple of things that they do. So creating fake web pages and trying to get access to databases with sensitive info is one. And then they're also seeing with these credentials the capability of spamming. So they want to see if like what the capacity is for sending emails from these credentials and just spamming, or what was it in here? Yeah, they're looking to conduct spam campaigns impersonating the breached companies. So when you get that domain, the at Microsoft or at AWS domain, it's a lot more credible. So spamming out, trying to infect other devices or collect payment from other devices or things like that. So super interesting. Botnets are as strong and alive as ever. You hear probably more and more about them all the time. So this next little bit is going to talk about some exploits. So exploits are going to be something we see all the time doing this series, and we're going to keep it a little bit more of a rapid fire. And if it's something where your company's using any of these different programs, it may be worthwhile to check it out. Make sure you have it updated to a proper version. But I just realized the music hasn't been on, so I'm going to put it back on because that was nice to have in the background. And I can rock out a little bit. All right. So the first one, Bosch Smart Thermostat feels the heat from firmware bug. Super good title, Nathan Eddy. But all this is saying is these thermostats, there's an open port that's allowing attackers to connect to the device, basically either install their own firmware or break the device. From what I read, these are super common in like hotels and hospitality. And Bosch has already issued updates for this. So this is the update. Affects software versions 1.7.0 and HD version 4.13.22. So these are something that should be able to be patched. Shouldn't be too much of a lift to update this and get it fixed again. Next one on the list, Atlassian, a name I've seen in the news way too often recently. In this case, it was specifically a Confluence data center and Confluence server bug. So for those of you who don't know, Confluence is basically like a Wikipedia page for businesses. So just like Wikipedia has a bunch of different sites, information on them, Confluence does the same thing, but for just that company in particular. And they found a nice 10 out of 10 vulnerability on the CVSS scale, basically common vulnerability scoring scale, that you'll see a lot in the security and business world, these CVE numbers. You'll see right here, they all have a score associated with them. So this one's a 10, which is the max score that you can get. And it's, like it says here, it's a template injection vulnerability that paves the way for unauthenticated attackers to achieve remote code execution on these versions of Confluence. So if it's something you're using, check it out. Make sure you're not getting hit hard there. And down below, if you're more interested in stuff what's going on with Atlassian, like I mentioned, they've had a lot. There's a link to the November bug that was found and another one back in September that popped up with Atlassian. So not great security as of late for the data center and server tools. Next one on the list. So this is the NetScaler ADC zero-day vulnerability. So you'll see Citrix here. Citrix owns Netscaler, so it's just one of their child companies. And from what I read, Citrix says nothing of theirs is affected. So this is just specifically targeted at these Netscaler ADC and gateway appliances. So in this case, the zero-day vulnerabilities impact Netscaler management interface and expose unpatched Netscaler instances to remote code execution, which is becoming a trend today, and then denial of service attacks. Just like the others, check out the versions if it's something you're using. Basically, Netscaler is a networking tool, but if it's something you're using, check it out. Make sure you are good to go there. Next one is GitHub. So this is one as well that has been patched. So check your version, make sure you're all good to go there. But as continue our trend, it is allowing for remote code execution on unpatched servers. So patches have been released way back in December. So exposed by a vulnerability patched in December that could let attackers access credentials within production containers via environment variables. It can allow attackers to gain remote code execution on unpatched servers, patched on several versions. And then companies just urging users to install security update as soon as possible. So there's plenty of updates in here. Again, I'll link everything down below. But on to the next one, which is Google. Google is a name we are going to see a lot just because they're a huge company. They've got a lot of zero-day exploits that you see pop up. This was their first one of 2024, so congrats to Google, knocking out their first of the year. This song is awesome, but I'm going to change it. Okay, and then for Google, like I mentioned, they have patches out for Windows, Mac, and Linux servers, so they're all patched or available to be patched there. And this 0-day it was caused by an out-of-bounds memory access, which basically is when a program is trying to access memory outside the defined limits of the data structure. So it gives some issues with data corruption, crashes, and security vulnerabilities. So that's what caused this one. Already been patched, and like I said, we're going to see this name popping up quite a bit. You'll see these last year. Google fixed 8 Chrome 0-day bugs exploited in attacks tracked as all these numbers here. So frequent occurrence, and hopefully for them it doesn't happen a bunch more this year, but it's very possible that it does. So this is your friendly reminder to keep your browsers updated. And then the last one we have here today is Ivanti. So this one is a little bit more of an issue just because there are no patches available at the moment. While they're working on them, as you'll see in a minute, there's nothing available for this one. So this is probably the biggest one. Thousands of Ivanti VPN interfaces have been compromised across the globe in the last 5 days, thanks to 2 serious, as yet unpatched 0-day vulnerabilities disclosed last week. So for context, Ivanti is a VPN tool that remotely connects mobile devices with corporate network resources. So you get into the VPN, you're going to have access to a lot of sensitive corporate information. And the combination here is 2 different bugs. Neither of them, 9.1 is a pretty high CVE rating, but neither of them have an astounding CVE rating here. First one is an 8.2, basically allowing attackers to bypass authentication checks. The next one is a 9.1, and it lets the authenticated users run arbitrary commands and then also make requests. So the combination of those two does not play super well together. Both of those are happening. It's kind of screwed. So definitely something that Ivanti is going to want to get a patch out for. And something I found really interesting is they attributed it to UTA 0178, which is, if you're like me, you're like, what the hell are those letters and numbers mean? It is a group that is believed to work for the Chinese state, meaning they're relaying information back to the Chinese state, may even be sponsored by the Chinese state and receiving funds, but they have a fairly limited number of cases where the attacker is going like all in on the victim. But it is run by this group, and they have attributed a lot of the thousands of Ivanti breaches to this point up to this group. So interesting that it is backed by the Chinese state, or associated with the Chinese state, I should say. But the good silver lining, if you want to call it that, with this one is that they are working on patches for this. So for that first one, the bypass authentication, they're looking to have patched by the 22nd, which is still in about 5 days, which is tough there. And then the other one will be on February 19th, which is way out. So sure, it's not hard or not easy to get these patched and taken care of, but it is a wild vulnerability to just have out there with if you're using the Ivanti VPN. So there's advice here. Follow your incident response playbook. Isolating the device is something you want to do, and then kind of kick off your investigation, which may involve opening a support ticket with Ivanti to learn more, then get the relevant files decrypted, or involve your incident response providers so they can help investigate and dig a little bit deeper. So that is the rundown for today. I'll be back to do these. Planning to do them, maybe not every day, but I'll stream Monday to Friday with something. Maybe this, maybe a little bit of educational security games so I can continue to learn. But if you like the content, any stories that I missed, anything that I missed in the stories, comment down below. Let me know. Looking forward to it. Thanks so much.